we don't have enough people, is that correct?
We need one more.
Okay.
All right, we do have a quorum now.
Okay. All right. It is right at 7 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock here. I might mess that up later. I will call this meeting of the library board to order.
All right, roll call. Chair Marie Hotta,
Here.
Vice Chair Andy Stakaris.
Here.
Maggie Burns is signing on right now. Bryn Dunning is not present. Scott Gilbert,
Here.
Dina Phelps,
Here.
Amy Wilson.
Here.
And I'm looking at Dina Phelps and Amy Wilson. Excused, we have Councilmember Chelsea Noonenkamp and Inglewood School Liaison Wayne Tucker. Staff, we have Director Christina Underhill and Library and Cultural Arts Manager Bethany Lafferty. All right, thank you.
All right.
I am here. Sorry. Hello.
Hi, Maggie.
Hi.
Hi, Maggie.
All right.
Maggie, is your camera working? Are you able to turn that on?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right. Approval of the minutes.
They look good to me. I move to approve.
I'll second them.
All right. Motion to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Bye.
Aye.
All right. Passes. Oh, I didn't say opposed, but I think that was everyone. All right. Is there any public comment tonight? I don't think so.
No.
Let's move on to the reports. Start with the statistical report. Oh, and Bryn is on.
Hi, Brent.
Hey, hey.
Okay, so hopefully everybody got a copy of this yesterday. Can you hear me okay? Also, by the way, I'm not using headset tonight. Okay. So, starting out from the top, days of service, there was only 25 this year. That was in part due to the beginning of May being closed on Sundays, but also having those two Saturdays, May 7th and May 14th closed for the carpet installation. So that's why there was so few open days during May of 2022. But as you can see, physical visitors was still really high. So with everything back open, people are coming into the library. Website views are steadily increasing, as well as the catalog views. Facebook remains pretty strong and added almost 2,000 new patrons from last year. And then the overall Englewood registrations are increased as well. And then the collection size remains pretty stable. The increases we're seeing are probably mostly due to, new release titles, as well as the growth of that educational resources collection aimed at the homeschooling families in the children's collection. So that continues to grow because they just are continuously cataloging and adding items to that collection. And the overall Marmot collection size remains stable. Meeting room sessions are really strong, as well as study room sessions. Circulation or physical holds is lower, but again, we're seeing that happening as more people are able to come into the library and select what they want to check out. They're not placing nearly as many things on hold as last year. And you can see that the total circulation is still pretty steady compared to last year. So less holds, but still similar circulation. And steady usage of the digital collection, Overdrive and Hoopla, which is predominantly ebooks and e-audio. Hoopla also has music and movies and TV shows. Canopy saw a pretty good increase over last year. And then Access 360 is probably dropping off. That's more kind of, school related academic type stuff. So as the school year is winding up, that's dropping off. And then the total circulation for digital is an increase. Information services, as you'll recall, last month I told you about how we're going to start collecting this data more widely in terms of all the kind of patron interactions. So the total questions answered for May was 2,146, and that breaks down to 1,015 interactions at the circulation desk, 787 at the adult reference desk, and 344 at the children's desk. Circulation, over the last few weeks, I've actually spent a lot of time on that desk. There's a lot of questions that get asked there because as people are checking out books, they'll also ask for things that they didn't find and ask to have holds placed for them, or asking questions about upcoming programs and things like that. So there really is some valuable interactions happening at that reference desk. So I'm really glad that we've kind of widened the collection of that data. I reached out to the organization that offers this kind of free online statistics tracking tool. I never heard back from them. I was unfortunately out all last week, so I haven't had a chance to follow up again, because I think I sent out the email right at the end of May, and I haven't heard anything. So I'm gonna plan to try that again and see, because I could see from their website, it does help you keep track more detailed of, are these directional questions or like informational questions, whether it's reference or for assistance with the accounts or placing holds or programming type questions. So it does allow for some more detailed record keeping of customer interactions with staff. So that's just a little bit about that, how that has grown exponentially, as I had kind of indicated that would be the case. Internet computer usage is really strong too, over 1,600 sessions. Volunteer hours are at 58. That is a big jump due in large part to the fact that we do have a library intern from University of Denver library science program who's doing an internship with us right now and will likely continue through the summer as well, because he's going to do a second internship focusing on archival stuff. And so we're going to have him work with one of the library associates on tackling some projects in the archive. Programs for May, there was 25 children's programs in-house with over 500 attendees. Outreach programs was 58 with over 1,200 people reached. That was predominantly school visits to promote summer reading. And then in young adult, there was 8 in-house programs, 21 attendees, 17 outreach programs, and 345 teens reached. And that was exclusively the visits to the schools to promote summer reading. Adult programming, there were 25 programs with approximately 114 attendees, that could be a little bit higher, as we don't always get an exact number of attendees, or people seeking services at the Resource Connect. So I'm trying to develop a more complete way to get numbers from Resource Connect, because that one's tough because spans 3 hours and people can kind of come and go. So I'm trying to come up with a new method for the agencies that are in attendance to report to me how many people they interacted with. So that 114 could potentially be a little higher. No outreach programs for adults last month. And revenues deposited was 968, which was probably mostly stuff for the study or meeting room usage, I would imagine. And then that's pretty much it for that. Unless, does anybody have any questions about the statistical report?
I have one. Did we talk about including like behavior incident reports and the number of exclusion orders and stuff in the statistical report, or was that somewhere else in the course of the meeting that we had talked about?
I feel
We
like
did talk about that.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I do remember that, and I forgot to include that.
Yeah, I mean, if we could get that going forward, I would appreciate it personally.
Thank you for remembering that, Scott.
Thank you. I think what I'll probably, this works because what we're doing too is like we're recording still things that we might, actually, I guess we're just kind of recording like official verbal warnings that we're giving to people in terms of, for example, like, this is the last time I'm going to tell you to, stop doing X behavior or you'll be to leave. So like, that's what we would record. And then we would record any ejections or exclusions from there. So I'll try to break it down between what were just verbal warnings and what were those ejections and or exclusions.
Thank you. Are you seeing, I don't know, on the patron numbers, if you're seeing a difference by day? Are you seeing Sunday attendance coming back?
Yeah, I think it's pretty steady, because there were certainly a lot of people interested in Sundays. And I'll kind of speak to it a little bit in the action plan about the like the informal survey I've been doing, because there's definitely has been several responses that indicated that they would come on Sunday. I've only been present for one Sunday. It was the 29th of May. Definitely had a lot of the regulars in, but there were several families that came in the afternoon to pick, return items and pick stuff up. So I think it's definitely a welcome time frame, especially during the summertime. People might be using it more because they just have more free time on the weekends, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and I'm going to start kind of looking at for the more kind of formal, excuse me, like assessment of usage, those specific numbers for Sunday based on the like the information questions statistic as well as the door count statistic, and kind of pull those out as separate numbers so that we can look at those over a period of time and just look at what's happening on Sundays. Is it increasing, decreasing, staying the same, but a strong number, and make some inferences from that.
Yeah, I was in last Sunday. It was nice. There seemed to be a fair number of people there, certainly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One quick thing about Sundays, and I don't know that on Google we've changed the hours for Sundays, because I know we came in this Sunday and I was like, let me just make sure what the hours were. And, most people will just Google things, but I had to go to the website and remind myself like, yep, we are open, but I couldn't remember what time. So just, that might be something we should follow up with.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else on the statistical report? Okay, let's move to the action plan. Thanks, everyone.
All right. So several updates in the action plan. The first item about the marketing plan hasn't really had an update, although I think we're having pretty steady usage and viewing on Facebook and Instagram. And the website, I'm still kind of learning the ins and outs on how to update certain information on the website. So we'll be hopefully getting some parts of that updated, and then having kind of an integrated plan with the social media too. Because so right now the social media accounts really are kind of just promoting things within the library. And I was talking to our library associate Caitlin, who's been running the social media accounts, that we want to try to start incorporating just kind of interactive content that will draw people to our page, get people to kind of respond and things like that. So it's not merely, you know, for informational purposes, that it is a place, you know, for especially on Instagram, for people just to kind of interact with content that they're attracted to. So we've been kind of discussing different strategies for that, and how to create content and maybe have some like specific things that we'll feature each week or something like that. So we're working on kind of expanding the content for social media. The website, I have my update about that is that I, during the end of May, I acquired a subscription to something called Niche Academy. It's a web-based training program specifically designed for libraries. And it has training modules, not just for staff members, but also to the public. And I thought this was a good spot to kind of share this update with, because the public facing side will allow us to install little widgets in the website, which will have buttons to link to a tutorial on how to use the various online resources like Hoopla, Libby, Canopy, some of the other databases that we have. And those are things that are created by Niche Academy, so that it's kind of like a standard instruction, because those are kind of standardized things. And you can kind of customize certain things for your library, like putting your logo and stuff on the intro, and things like that. But it will really help to promote and provide instruction on utilizing these downloadable resources to our library patrons. So I'm looking forward to rolling that out in the coming month. We'll also be utilizing Niche Academy for staff training. And initially we will focus on training from, I think I mentioned this before, a guy named Ryan Dowd, who does, runs a website called, well, his book is called The Librarian's Guide to Homelessness. And so he has a very specific trainings for public libraries, for library staff to learn strategies and techniques on how to work with people experiencing homelessness or mental illness, and really just kind of difficult people in general. His trainings really are pretty wide reaching in how you kind of interact with people. So that's the staff side that I'll be rolling out with everybody this month too. So I'm really excited to have access to this tool for both staff development as well as promotion of material, like of the online materials to the public.
So that'll be on the main library website, the like englewood.marmot.org.
Right. Yeah, it will be there, and it will be like, it'll just be, I wish I should have loaded up an example of another library to show you. They'll just be like, if you're looking on, just gonna pull this up real quick. Like if you're on the library website and you like click on the area where it says streaming and downloads, at the very top of that part of the page, you see little tiles for Libby, Hoopla, and Canopy. And there'll be like a little button that will say like view tutorial, or I don't remember, I think it says something like that, or maybe it just says tutorial. And then you can click on that, and there's different ways to design it, whether it opens a whole new web page or it's just kind of like a pop-out web page with a video viewer, so you can watch a video that walks you through the steps of how you create your account and how you use the, the different tools. So I really think that that's going to help increase the usage.
It'll increase my usage. Yeah, because I was going to ask if I could like get some young librarian to guide this poor old boomer through that stuff. This sounds like a very helpful thing.
Yeah, they're really great tutorials, and we do offer every week on Tuesdays. One of the programs is Technology Assist, where we have a volunteer that's available to help people with stuff, but it's during a weekday and pretty early in the day. That's not always convenient for people. So this is another way to utilize the website to make our collection accessible, and people can learn how to use it on their own time, and you can view it as many times as you want. And there'll be a whole host of things that we can add these tutorials for, that are within the library's like list of different databases, because a lot of the databases are common tools that libraries subscribe to. And so Niche Academy, because they're pretty exclusively, their clients are libraries, they've created a lot of this content that promotes these specific library tools. So it's going to be a really great way to get more usage of our databases.
Right.
So that's going to be coming out and this is kind of goes in part with my learning more about how to make edits to the website and stuff like that. So I'll be working with some of the people in communications to gain a better understanding of how I can get this stuff loaded into the website. So I hope to have that out by the end of the month.
The end of this month?
Yeah, the end of June, hopefully. I'm kind of a week behind on all my stuff because I had to be out last week. But hopefully by the end of June, early July, we'll have those little widgets embedded into the website, and you'll see those buttons.
Right.
The next part about the study of current library hours and services. So as I shared last month, I started distributing a informal survey, and pretty much it's been distributed to, we had it at the Celebrate Englewood event at the beginning of the month, and then it's been made available inside the library and promoted on social media. I believe I did share the link with all of you, so if you've shared it with anybody, that has helped. I have 47 responses to date. And what I'd like to do going into the next month with this is try to get the survey out into other areas. I've been talking, I asked Allison Boyd, who's the manager for recreation, about maybe having something set out there in the rec center and at Malley to see if people will, and because I also have paper ones, so they can either do the website or do the paper one. Because of the respondents I've had so far, 100% of them have library cards with Englewood. So it would be great to get some feedback from people who don't have Englewood library cards that might be Englewood residents, and see kind of how that shifts some of the data. And then, as I mentioned, I'm hoping to, as we get more, I think we're almost at a month of Sundays, I guess, but as we get a little bit deeper into being open on Sundays, I want to kind of create a separate report that has the data exclusively from Sundays. So the door count and the patron interaction counts. So that'll be something that'll be forthcoming, so that we have a decent amount of data from the Sundays to make some decisions about how to go forward with that.
Andy.
So I appreciate the effort that's been put into this, being it's like the first time we've done like a survey, sort of, at least at my time on the board, but there's no way we can make any sort of justification or decisions on 47 responses. And so I think we need to think about maybe a different idea of how to promote this, or make it easier. Even looking through social, like, there's a QR code, but you're on your phone. So it's, I think it's, I don't want you to go through all this work of compiling this data when 47 is just not a realistic like number to make any sort of real decisions on. You know, those are the super users that we sort of talk to, which is great, but I think we need to, I don't want you to go through all this work to present this data to us when it's, you know, it's a nice to have, but I think we need to sort of rethink how we get 500 or 600 or 700 responses, or at least, you know, break the 250 mark, which I know is also a lot of work for your crew. So I want to balance sort of the ROI on it, but thinking about, I don't know if the city has some services or city has budget to help us sort of promote it, or if we have money from the board, we can put behind sort of boosting posts. But I just don't want you to do any more sort of lift on this if you're going to get the survey to 53. Like, that's just not enough for you to make any real decisions.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Like, and I think the survey results for sure are not super indicative of, you know, how we should make decisions. I was thinking too about trying to do like an email push, but then all the emails that we would have within the library, those are people who are likely already using the library. I mean, surely some of them don't use it quite as frequently, but we have their email address because they have library cards. So that kind of defeats the purpose there of trying to reach people who aren't using the library.
Yeah. Is putting that QR code or something into the Inglewood magazine an option? I know that there's some lead time on that. Like, it might take a little while, but that's something that people flip through. And I think that a QR code would be eye-catching at least. Because from what I know, it's this exact same information in the Inglewood magazine blurb from the library pretty much every time too. So I don't know, that's just one thought.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because we're actually they're doing the draft of it right now, with that fall guide. So that is a really good idea. So I made a note of that, and I will follow up with Allison, because her and Julie Madden, who's the communications liaison, are putting all that stuff together, and I'll ask if we can have a little square or a half page even that we can fit that link and QR code into. That's a good idea.
But I agree, like, you can't put a QR code in an Instagram post because you can't access that. It needs to be the link being pushed out on social.
Yeah, and I noticed that on that post, and I think in the caption it says, you know, link in the bio, but I don't know, you need to, but I don't think links, and I don't know if she does stories on it. I have never even seen any stories from the Inglewood Library one, because that's where you can put a link.
Yeah, or boosted by the city's social. That's free. If it's boosted by the city's social, like just in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we're looking at freeways. Sorry, Scott.
You know, could we, people sign up for notifications from the city. Like I get the newsletter, and I've signed up for notifications of a couple boards that I follow. Could we send it out to anyone who gets city email notifications?
I don't know. I could certainly find out if that's possible.
I think it's a sizable number of people, because they really pushed that maybe a couple of years ago. But yeah, like I get newsletter and I get community development newsletter. There are a handful of notifications I signed up for, and I know a lot of people have signed up for different ones. And you're still going to have a self-selected group of people who care about the city, but on the other hand, that's probably the people paying enough attention to give you meaningful feedback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's certainly worth trying out and seeing what we can get out of it. I don't know that we really have the budget for doing a mailing of anything.
Yeah, no, I mean their email
Right, no, I know.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
saying, in addition to those things, so like
Yeah.
something even bigger, I don't know that, but so exploiting these various kind of electronic ways of getting the word out, I think is worthwhile to do. And that doesn't feel like too much work for me to pursue. So I think that that's all really doable.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you guys, talking about it and giving those suggestions. That's really helpful. Okay, sorry. Okay, moving on to the improvements to the library. So we completed the carpeting installation at the beginning half of May. So that was carpeting throughout all of the public areas with the exclusion of the meeting rooms, study rooms, and and then of course the staff areas. And then laminate flooring was replaced at the 2 entrances and underneath the aquarium. No flooring was replaced in the story time room. They just had laminate in there that they were fine with, and they just didn't really want to do that area. So that part wasn't updated. But so that is all complete. Oh, and then the 2 entry points, those doors got new like push bars. So it's still kind of like a similar process for unlocking them for the day, but they now have a quick release button to lock the doors quickly in the event of an emergency of some kind. We don't have to fumble looking for a tool to lock the doors back up. It's a real quick process now. So that's that helps the staff feel a little bit more secure if there was a reason to lock down the library. The next part goes into adult services. So focusing on services for patrons experiencing homelessness. We haven't really had an update here. I will say that just kind of, I didn't have any concrete information just yet, but I've had some organizations kind of reaching out and asking about how they can participate in Resource Connect, and some of the existing agencies want to attend more frequently. So we're having some, inquiries and stuff like that. I'm trying not to get this growing too much under my watch, because I really want to give that to the new adult services librarian when they come on board and are selected. So I'm trying to just kind of keep Resource Connect sort of status quo right now, but I am having ongoing conversations with different organizations that I'm kind of letting them know that we're happy to talk with them and that we're in the process of hiring a new adult services librarian, and then they will follow up to solidify plans. So there's definitely going to be some growth in this area going forward once the new librarian is on board. Launching new services for older adults. I did have a conversation, and I kind of like went back and forth about where to put this one, because it's sort of outreach, but I put it under here for older adults. I had a conversation with Lindsay Gorselski-Hawking, who's the executive director at Innovative Housing Concepts, which is also known as the Englewood Housing Authority. Just at the on May 31st through June 2nd, they opened a wait list for their 2 facilities, Simon Center and Orchard Place. They are for seniors and people with disabilities. So they opened that wait list, and we were available to help people in the library fill out that application. But in addition to that, Lindsay had talked to Michelle previously about trying to set up some information literacy and kind of technology instruction, like how to use Libby and Hoopla for the residents at these 2 facilities. And so she and I have resumed that conversation about how we might be able to have a staff member, either virtually or in person, provide instruction to the residents. And then she and I also talked briefly about our Englewood at Home, which is like the homebound, Englewood Public Library at Home, I think is, or EPL at Home is what they call it. It's the homebound services. And so I talked with our library associate, Vicki, who coordinates that effort, about how we might be able to increase the homebound services to residents at Simon Center and Orchard Place as well. Because Vicki thinks that there is like capacity to grow that program to about 20 to 25 people with just herself running it. And right now she has about 8 or 9 consistent patrons that she does homebound to. Oh yeah, it says EPL at home right there. Duh.
But one thing I would love us, and I don't know how we do this with the staff capacity, but like the public should know about these programs like in a better way than just sort of like you all are doing like amazing work and I'm on the board and I didn't even know about some of this, like, you know, and it's embarrassing for me, like just I should know, I should be better, but like you all are doing amazing work and I want to think about how we talk, and I don't know if this is a city process or library process, but like this is like, these are awesome programs that should be getting some media coverage or at least some strong social, some simple video. Like I think that we want to think about, and this is not for today, don't drop everything to sort of, but you know, I think if you build sort of a social media calendar, you could say, talk about this in August. And I think, and I'm happy to come in and work with your staff if that's helpful to like help them sort of plan that out. But you're doing great stuff. And I don't think we're telling the story very well, which means we're not attracting new people to use the services as well outside of you doing all the outreach. So I just want to think about how we organically sort of spread the message of the amazing work you and your staff are doing.
Like a monthly program focus or something like that, that could also be in the newsletter. Yeah, socials, I like that idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that all the news stations, some of the news stations could do an easy day turn and follow your crew around for the day. Like, I think there's some just easy stuff we could do. And I'm not sure the delineation between if the city does that communication or not. But like, let's figure that out. And however we can support, let us know. But I think figuring out some sort of programmatic focus in social or the newsletter would be really helpful.
Yeah, and I think especially for the EPL at home, what Vicki, gave me some backstory about it was that it evolved toward the end of 2020 during COVID, and they were trying to reach people. And I think as they kind of had turnover of staff and stuff like that, it was this kind of the staffing constraints that were limiting the growth of it. And now that there's a pretty solid staff, we did have some recent, staff changes and departures, but we're pretty solid. And as we get more people on board, I think Vicki will have more time to devote to it, or potentially have somebody else also help her with it. So I think we're at the point where we certainly can grow this program and promote it more strongly, because we'd be able to handle whatever the response might be. So I think this is a good time that we're getting to start doing that kind of promotion. I don't have anything under local history materials, but I will just mention the intern we've had, and one of the staff members who recently finished her library degree that has an interest in archival work. We're going to start developing a plan to work on the archive and add some elements to the history nook. And I have recently become in contact with one of the Preservation Society members to start getting together with them so that we can kind of pursue some work in this area. So that's kind of on the horizon. So I just wanted to mention that.
Could I just ask a quick question? So there's a room, and I can't remember the rooms in the library at all, the names of them, but there's a room that the Historic Preservation Society uses basically as like storage, correct?
Yeah. That's technically like the archive, this storage room and then they use about half of the, there's like a kind of a staff workroom where half of the room is for library staff, the other half is for the Preservation Society. I don't know if they hold meetings in there or what, but and there is going to be some type of meeting tomorrow night related to the Preservation Society. It's not going to be in the library anymore. They've moved it up to Hamden Hall because they want to have a little bit more social distance space, but I forget exactly what the meeting is about, but it's like some kind of community assessment or something like that for the Preservation Society.
Yeah, I would love an update on that, because last time, I mean, it's been a while, it was before COVID, but last time I was in that room, it kind of looked like the society had just hauled the stuff out of their garage and tossed it in there, you know? And so, I mean, if they would ever want to get serious about making that archive available to the public, that would be great.
Yeah, and so we have some people that are on staff that are interested in doing some kind of inventory and assessment, finding are there other things we can catalog, digitize. So we have some staff that are interested in doing that type of work. And then we have this intern who's interested in assisting. So we're going to try to tackle some elements of it this summer and see where we can go from there with it.
Cool, thanks.
Growth, outreach services for throughout the city. So this one was interesting. I kind of hadn't read this one really thoroughly until this past week. And it occurred to me that I had a meeting with Ames Stenson, who is the City of Englewood Restorative Justice Program Manager. We met like mid to late May to talk about restorative justice within the city of Englewood. And the plans that program has, because it's really pretty new. And Ames had shared that October is Conflict Resolution Month. There is something planned. I think it's like restorative justice, community restorative justice skills is the name of the program that Ames will be presenting in October in the library. And then we were discussing possibly doing a co-hosted book discussion. I don't remember the title of the book that they told me, but it's something that I think it might be the Colorado Department of Education or some other kind of state department that's providing copies of the book. And so we were discussing having some copies, acquired through this like kind of grant program, and then the library buying some additional copies and creating one of the book club kits for the title, and then having a community discussion in October. And so that was one of the other city departments that I did meet with during May, that we'll have something, some kind of collaboration with going forward. So I'm looking forward to that. It's really interesting. Don't ask me to explain what restorative justice is, because I don't totally know. It's more or less like conflict resolution outside of the courtroom through mediation, kind of. And, just focusing on not punishment, but like, I don't know, sense of community and how somebody has wronged somebody else, and including, the person, and they don't use the term victim. I forgot the term that Ames said is used.
They're harmed parties.
Yes.
Harmed or harming parties. Yeah, I'm one of the volunteers in
Great.
that program. It's amazing. If any of you haven't done the information session with Ames, she provides them online very regularly. I would highly recommend them.
Yeah, so that's really cool. And I'm looking forward to learning more about that. And restorative justice is actually kind of a growing trend in public libraries for sure. So it's interesting to, have access to this type of program within the city of Englewood and to bring it into the library. So I'm looking forward to kind of learning more about that and seeing how we can collaborate with this program going forward. I feel like I'm talking a really long time. Nothing new for the improvements to adult services, just kind of in general. Children's services, let's see. The homeschooling thing is just still kind of ongoing, so they're still adding items to that collection, nothing new. For outreach to local schools, 7 Englewood elementary schools just 7 schools were visited, the 4 elementary, 2 middle, and the high school. But the high school, they only did 9th grade to present stuff about summer reading. And so they visited 69 classes. And then there was one, I feel like it might have got dropped out of the work. There was one school that had like a COVID outbreak and they went to virtual for a week. So we missed out on meeting some of those classes. So that's why it wasn't like 100% of all of the grades, all of the classes. And then summer reading began at the end of May. At that first few days, the registration got up to 175 kids. As of this afternoon, they had 543 people signed up for summer reading. And the summer reading programs have been really well attended. Today's kind of carnival program had over 50 people. Last week, their live animals program had over 90 people in attendance. And then the first summer teen program had 14 teens at it. So they're off to a really great start to programming and getting some good signups for summer reading. That sort of jumped ahead to the summer reading update a little bit. Sorry.
Perfect. All right.
That's it for the action plan, unless anybody has any other questions about anything in there.
Anyone? Okay. I don't think we have anything to talk about with the budget this month. Is that correct? All right, so let's move on to new business with the code of conduct policy.
So as I was kind of providing some training information to staff about the verbal warning and the ejection/inclusion or exclusion form designed by the city attorney's office, I came across on the library's website the patron code of conduct policy that was previously endorsed by the Englewood Public Library Board in March of 2012. So that is a pretty outdated document. While a lot of the things still kind of apply, there's some refinement that I think would be a good idea, as well as making some of the language consistent with the new standards of behavior that came out from the city of Englewood, so that we have consistent information in that code of conduct that includes the items in standards of behavior, but also includes things that are specific to the library. One great example that the Assistant City Attorney, Caitlin Parker, shared with me was that there were some things that did not get included in the standards of behavior because they can't apply to citywide properties, but they can specifically apply in the library, such as sleeping, loitering, things like that. Because in a public park, that kind of thing is basically I forget. I don't know. I can't remember all the legalese language that she told me this afternoon, but you can allow that, and they can't prohibit something like that in a public park, but we can prohibit it in the library. So we can have a separate code of conduct for the library that includes the items from standards of behavior and also addresses, unique situations to the library. Christina had told me that sometime last year that a discussion about revising or updating the code of conduct had come up with the board, and there was like a draft in process, but never really got finished. So I don't have anything. I didn't share like a copy or anything yet because I haven't really figured out how to design it so much, and just wanted to kind of get some feedback. And I did talk to the city attorney's office today. We had a meeting in the afternoon, and they kind of revised some of the language from the original document, the code of conduct document, to be consistent with the language that was published in the standards of behavior. So they're really happy to kind of help shape that language and make it consistent between the two documents, and then kind of come up with something that we could present for the board to adopt potentially next month. Some of the things that were specific to the library were, like I mentioned, sleeping in the library, unattended children. So having some guidelines on what is an age by, at what age do kids, can they be alone in the library? If they're younger than a certain age, they have to have an adult at least in the building. And then maybe if they're even younger, they have to be attended to by an adult at all times. So I do need to get with Kimberly about that a little bit to kind of confirm what would be the appropriate ages for that. Not bringing things into the library like bicycles, scooters, shopping carts, things like that. I'm stuck on a part about bringing in certain sized personal possessions. So the original document had personal possessions brought into the library must be no larger than an average backpack or book bag. And it included that luggage was not allowed. That one is really tough because we do have a lot of people that come in with like a rolling suitcase. Sometimes it's like carry-on size, sometimes it's huge, but it's so hard to tell people you have to find somewhere else to put all your worldly possessions. You can't bring them in the library when we're not providing anywhere for them to store them. So that one's that's a hard one for me. And I would love any feedback that you might have about that one. Because I felt like almost we just need to limit the number of items you bring in with you, not necessarily the size. Like you can't bring in 6 bags or suitcases, but you can have like a purse, a backpack, and maybe one other, baggage or something like a duffel bag or a suitcase. But all your belongings have to be contained inside. So that one is a kind of a tough one for me because that's a really hard one to enforce because then you're asking people, basically telling them you can't come in here because you have nowhere to keep your belongings, and that's hard.
Andy.
I think going forward for these sort of meetings, it would be really helpful to have this stuff in advance so we can sort of think on it a little bit if you want our sort of input on it. I think this is going to be a longer than next month's discussion, quite frankly. I would like to sort of see recommendations from the city attorney's office, from the library staff itself. I think there's probably disagreements among sort of folks internally on this board to give feedback on sort of where things are. And so, I would sort of maybe plan it over the next 2 meetings. I would like to see sort of the city attorney's draft. I would like to see the old draft. I've never seen the old draft. I don't know if anyone was on the board when it was voted on.
Oh, not the 2012.
Yeah.
No.
And so to see, and then, really want to hear from the library staff and yourself of sort of what is realistic. Because sometimes our idea of realistic is not sort of implemented at the day-to-day level. But I think this is going to take a little more than just sort of love to hear your thoughts in like rapid fire succession on it. So I think we need to sort of just coordinate it a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what, so the draft that the city attorney had been working on, they weren't ready to share yet. So that's what she asked me not to share it just yet. So what I was thinking about doing was like working with her a little bit more on that and then sharing the draft next month with all of you so that you, and certainly in advance of the next meeting with, so that you have plenty of time to look at it and think on it. On the library's website, under the About the Library section, that's where you can, if you scroll down, there's a list of library policies, and it does include the patron code of conduct there. That's where you can find the document from 2012. And certainly if you would like me to email it, I'd be happy to do that if that's easier for everybody.
Yes, please.
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah, and I think having like clear questions, because I don't know, I'm very visual, so I really need to read it. But for me, just to hear a lot of spitball is very hard for me to.
A lot of it is that, and I don't know, Christina, tell me if I can or can't do this, but if you haven't had a chance to read the standards of behavior, we do have an electronic version. Can I share that with them, Christina? Okay, so I'll send that out to you then too, because that shows you, okay, and that was the other thing that Caitlin explained to me was that document was informed heavily by this library patron code of conduct to begin with, but there's still some things that didn't get picked up that she was explaining they couldn't put in a citywide document, but then we can, you know, have that specifically for the library. And then like there was other, like the two other things that I asked her about, like, do we have to have separate policies about unattended children and just say that it's in the code of conduct that you have to follow it? Oh, and then also like maybe like a food and drink policy, and then code of conduct says you need to follow that. She said that it could go either way. Like if we want to have a specific policy and then say in the code of conduct you need to adhere to it, or just make the explanation of what it would be in the code of conduct. She said that either way would be fine and enforceable. So we don't necessarily have to create any additional policies behind some of the things that we would want to make specific to the library.
May I ask something? Just curious, what is the issue with backpacks? If someone rolls a large, you know, like a large piece of luggage on wheels in, what problem does that cause?
That's the thing. I don't think that it really does unless person is opening it up and dragging out all their personal belongings. That's when I would, or it's like obstructing a walkway or something like that. Those are the kinds of things that could be problems, but I think as long as people are keeping their belongings to themselves, understanding they are responsible for them, and that the library has no responsibility for your personal belongings if you leave them somewhere, I don't feel like the size of it so much matters as the quantity of belongings you're bringing in. And that's where I kind of, that part I want to focus more on. What is the quantity of stuff that's being brought in? Not like if it's, because like I saw a guy not a couple weeks ago that had a big old suitcase, but like it seems like that's all of his personal belongings. That's all he has. And where else is he going to put it if he can't keep it? And so I just feel like it's such a hardship to ask people to find somewhere else to put your stuff. You can't bring it in here. And like, if you have a bunch of stuff, can you put some things inside others and then you condense your.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, because also it reduces any subjectivity, because if you don't have to define whether something is luggage or is larger than an average backpack, it's just one less thing to argue about, where you can't argue about a number. You know, you can't argue that 2 backpacks are 1, you know.
Right.
Yeah, no, me personally, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and I think that like, and just kind of defining that you can't like unpack all of your belongings. Like don't go into a study room and start unpacking your stuff. Like if you're going to do that, you're going to have to go do that outside. You can't do that in the building. So I haven't encountered any problems with people having too many things or having too dirty a stuff or whatever. So that hasn't really been a problem since I've been here so far, but because it was part of the original code of conduct, I'm just trying to get a sense of how to kind of rework that part of it. So I'll email out the original one from 2012, and then I'll continue working with Kate, the assistant city attorney, to kind of finalize the draft that she and I have been working on and get that out to you as well. And then we can have that, you know, as continued discussion for next month.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right, on to old business, the staffing update.
Tomorrow we'll be wrapping up the adult services librarian interview process. We did end up doing 2 rounds. The last interview is tomorrow, and then I actually hope to have a decision by the end of the week, and then move forward with that. I have a final draft of the job description for the former access services librarian position to go over with Christina before we get it okayed by HR, and then pursue posting that position as well. And then we had one of our associates promoted to the collection development specialist. So we were really excited to have Matt Broadus start in that role last Monday. And so his part-time associate position is vacant, and then another part-time associate resigned, and his last day was last Thursday, I believe, the 9th. And so that's open. And Christina, well, I guess Christina had a meeting with somebody in finance Monday. I'll be meeting with him tomorrow just to confirm our staffing numbers and hopefully rehire those positions. And then possibly we'll have some associate openings if we promote staff into these open librarian positions.
And I'll add to, Beth doesn't know this because she was unfortunately out last week and our budgets were due, but I did put in 2 full-time lead positions that may change in the future to what we actually call them, but they'd be associate leads for 2023. We have been told most positions will not be approved for next year. And there's a lot being asked for, but we know it's been a need to have more full-time staff versus part-time staff in the library for retention purposes and other reasons. And so the goal usually is ask for the staff year after year, and then hopefully eventually they give in and give you the staff. So just FYI, Beth, you might get 2 new positions next year.
That's pretty much all I have about the staff, I think.
Okay. And did you have anything additional for summer reading?
No, I kind of
Perfect.
shark on that one during the action plan, but yeah, they're definitely having some good turnout for program attendance and participation. And they have teen volunteers there each day helping with signups, so it's going really well.
Cool.
All right. Anything for staff's choice?
Do you have anything else you want to add? Otherwise, I have 2 items.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of already talked about it. I'm just really excited about the Niche Academy thing because I'm really excited to do the Ryan Dowd training with the staff. It's really going to give such a strong foundation to the staff for how to handle difficult situations in the moment and not feel like, I don't know how to do this. I got to go find somebody, because it's going to empower them to address, situations as they occur, and they'll have the confidence to do it as well. And I'm just really excited to start getting everybody participating in that.
Cool.
And then my 2 items, one is we have seen an increase in COVID cases. I'm sure you're all very aware of that. So just putting it out there, and that, Marie, this is something you can decide or the board can vote tonight about staying virtual maybe for July or being in person, either way.
Okay.
I hope as COVID cases start dropping, but right now they are spiking significantly. We do get biobot numbers from our South Platte water treatment plant. And it's a scientific process to see how much COVID is in the system. And it's been fairly accurate this year and last. And so they are spiking significantly. So discussion if you want to have that on what to do for July, and then we can go month by month. And then secondly, 4th of July, council last Monday decided to have no fireworks at the 4th of July events. We will still have an event at Bellevue and Quarterstones Park from 1 to 6 p.m. on the 4th for people to come out to the parks and enjoy vendors and games and other things that'll be going on. So unfortunately, no fireworks just due to the drought conditions and fire hazards that come with that.
Thank you. Okay. Well, that could lead us to board members' choice and talking about next month. Well, actually, I have a question. Although Chelsea's not here, do we know if we're getting new members, Debbie?
They had interviews Monday night,
Okay.
last night, and they're in the process of notifying members and
Okay.
and that. So, and I think there's a chance I'm not sure, maybe a youth member. We
Okay.
may not, but I know the city's working on that.
Okay. All right. What's everyone's comfort and travel plans as far as July?
I'm happy to stay virtual for July. It is really spiking and tons of people are sick. So I'm happy to stay virtual. It doesn't matter to me.
I'm in town and I don't care. We could meet in person. Doesn't matter to me. I also like sitting in my basement.
I'm in town I would not have hesitation about meeting in person, but I do not, I don't want to give that undue weight. If anyone
Yeah.
is concerned, I would gladly meet virtually. It's not an issue.
Yeah, whatever makes everyone comfortable. I'm fine
Yeah.
in person or virtual, but I have no travel plans.
Do we need to decide tonight, Debbie? Could we kind of just do an email survey at the start of July, if we know we're getting a new person? I feel like it would be really nice if we could meet in person, just based on the feedback from other new members previously.
Yeah, definitely you can decide down the
Okay.
line.
All right, let's touch base at the beginning of July and we'll see how things are looking.
Cool.
And make a decision then if everyone's good with that.
Sounds good.
All right. Any other board members' choice add-ons?
Hope everybody's having a good summer.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that I'm in North Carolina. For anyone who doesn't know, I've been here since the 19th of May, and we've gone to the local library here, which is a huge system with like, I don't know, at least 10 plus branches. And I re-upped my local library card, and our Libby collection is much better for new releases than this giant system. And we are so much happier with the setup at our children's section for browsing for the kids. So I just wanted to give that little applause for what we are providing.
You are so right, Marie. I am a dedicated library user, and I would not, I would go to whatever is the best one around town, whether it be Denver, Littleton, and I definitely go to Inglewood, not just because I live here, but because it's the best one.
Yeah. I know Marmot's awesome for the collection size as well, but yeah, it was like really hard for my kids to browse the stacks here because they're just stacks instead of the little sections that they can go through.
Yeah, I'll also plug like the story times on Fridays at the parks. We've like loved that. And even like all of our friends that live in Denver, they're like coming with us to like the Inglewood parks because like Denver just doesn't do that stuff. So yeah, really have enjoyed that this summer.
We'll have to catch you there in July.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else? We can adjourn. It is 8:06 p.m.
All right. Good seeing
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
Take care.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.